Hello, once again, this is Antonio, and I'm coming at you with another exciting video. Okay, so in this video, Mom said, I have sent money to your house for our son. So in my heart, I have taken care of you and my child at the same time. So no, I don't think I should have to pay more child support. So let's see how this plays out. Nevertheless, thank you for all my new subscribers. We're on the road to 10,000. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. Don't forget that you can support the channel through Cash App or Super Chat. Once again, let's dive into the content. That's enough of me rambling.
Issue would be with his wife, but with Jaquan himself, no, ma'am.
So other than Christopher, he's got 3 other children, and there's one on the way, correct?
Correct. The one that's on the way is from a different female.
Okay.
He has another child's mother who lives in Houston.
Okay.
And she's apparently given him a discount on hotels. Chris was living with his dad, but I was still sending money for Chris, and whenever Jaquan needed money, I was taking care of basically both of them.
So, Miss Salazar, what is your full name?
Nina Marie Salazar.
Okay. And what is the name of the child before the court today?
Christopher Dion Isaac Paul.
Okay. And what is Christopher's date of birth?
November 24th, 2012.
Okay. And who is Christopher's father?
Jaquan Paul.
Okay. And did you both sign an acknowledgement of paternity, which would have been around about the time that Christopher was born?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would enter the state's exhibit the acknowledgement of paternity in this case.
Ms. Salazar, I've just placed on the screen a copy of the alleged acknowledgement of paternity for the child Christopher. Is it okay if I look at this acknowledgement?
Yes, sir.
Exhibit A is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Salazar, do you have any safety concerns between you and Mr. Paul?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you have any other issues or concerns as to safety in general?
The only issue would be with his wife, but with Jaquan himself, no, ma'am.
Okay. And what were the issues with his wife?
She has recently and in the past threatened me, came over to my house. She's tried to run me off the street. She's verbally threatened Chris. And a few of those are on police reports.
Okay. Okay. And when was the last time any incident occurred?
I would say about 2 months ago was
Okay.
when she tried to, it was the vehicle incident.
Okay. And what happened then?
Well, she was just, she was following me, and she was trying to basically run me off the road. She was honking. I ended up calling the police and getting a police report for that.
Okay. Have you gotten any protective orders or anything like that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. But you have no actual safety concerns with Dad himself?
That is correct.
Okay. And do you have any, does Dad know where you live?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any concerns if your address is put into the court record?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what county do you live in?
I live in Jefferson.
And what county does Dad live in, to your knowledge?
Harrison County or Harris County.
Yes, Harris County. Okay. Now, where does Christopher primarily live? Who does he primarily live with?
He lives with me.
Okay. And who makes all the day-to-day decisions for Christopher?
I do.
Who makes the major decisions for Christopher?
I do as well.
Okay. And does Dad help in any of those decisions as it relates to Christopher?
No, ma'am, he doesn't.
Okay. What kind of visits does Dad have with Christopher?
They are very just, I guess, whenever he has time. I believe the last time he came to visit was about, it was probably 3 weeks ago.
Okay. When Dad does have visits, does he have overnight visits?
Most of the time, yes.
Okay. Now, would you, if Dad was to exercise, and I explained to you what the standard possession was. Now, if he was to exercise those visits, would you have concerns if he was to exercise them?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What kind of health insurance is Christopher on?
He is on Medicaid.
Okay. And are you asking for any back child support or just current child support moving forward?
I would like to get the back child support if possible.
Okay. Now, in the last 4 years approximately, has Dad provided any support for Christopher? Has he given you any cash to support Christopher?
Cash? No, ma'am.
Okay. Has Christopher been in Dad's possession at all for an extended period of time for in the last 4 years?
Yes, Chris was staying with his father. This was in 2020 to 2021, but it was for 6 months while I was on a deployment overseas.
Okay, so in the last 4 years, which was approximately 2 years ago, just to make sure, is Christopher did stay with Dad for about 6 months while you were deployed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and do you know if Dad works at all?
Yes, he does.
Do you happen to know where he works?
He works at Pepsi as a merchandiser.
Okay. And do you know if Dad has any other children other than Christopher?
Yes, he has 3 other living, and he has 1 on the way.
Okay. So other than Christopher, he's got 3 other children, and there's 1 on the way. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, did you and Dad ever live together at any point in the last 4 years?
No, ma'am.
Okay. No questions, Judge. No further questions for this witness.
Are you next witness?
The state would call Miss Adeline. Miss Adeline, what is your full name?
Amy Adeline.
Okay. And where do you work?
I work for Attorney General Child Support in Beaumont.
And how long have you worked for the Office of the Attorney General?
5 years.
Okay. And what is your job duty? What is your job title?
I'm a child support officer 4.
Okay. And what are some of your duties as a child support officer?
Normally I'm just doing the dockets like this, filing, filing, and also CSRP as well.
And do you look for any income information as it relates to non-custodial parents?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you find any information, any income information as it relates to Mr. Paul on this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what did you find for the 3rd quarter of 2023?
He works for PepsiCo, $11,665.22.
Okay. And did you find anything for the 2nd quarter of 2023?
Yes, ma'am. The same employer, $11,310.22.
Okay. Now, did you find some reported income for the 1st quarter of 2023?
Yes, ma'am. The same employer, $1,922.70.
Were there other employers of the 1st quarter of 2023?
Yes, ma'am. Savage Transportation for 1st quarter, $1,391.06. and also for Sacri Industrial, first quarter 1,485, and also Intermountain Staffing, first quarter 149.60.
Okay. Did you find anything for the fourth quarter of 2022?
Yes, ma'am. He works for Savage, 12,366.49.
And did you happen to total all of those amounts up for the last 12 months?
Yes, ma'am. Total of 40,290.29.
Okay. And what did you get for the monthly gross for the last 12?
3,357.52.
Okay. And what did you find for the total amount of income for 2022 for Mr. Paul?
Okay. He works for multiple employers. Total is 32,013.53.
Did you find anything for 2021?
I did found last 4 quarters less than 300 and nothing else.
So you only found something for the last quarter of 2021.
Correct.
Okay, and that was less than $300, correct?
Correct.
Did you find anything for 2020?
I didn't find anything.
And did you find any reported income for 2019?
I didn't find anything.
Okay. Did you find if Mr. Paul had any other children?
Yes, he has 2 other children's court order to pay.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Are you next witness?
No further questions, Your Honor. The state rests.
Ms. Salazar, when you were testifying and you were telling me about Mr. Paul's other children, you said that he had 3 children and 1 on the way. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How many children does he have with his wife?
Just 1.
And 1 on the way.
The one that's on the way is from a different female.
Okay. All right. And so the problems that you had with Mr. Paul were with his wife, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever live with Mr. Paul's wife?
Oh, no, sir. No, sir.
And you don't consider her to be a family member, do you?
No, sir.
All right. You said that Mr. Paul lives in Houston?
Yes, sir. That's what he told me last. He was living in a hotel in Houston. Yes, sir.
When was it that he told you he was living in Houston?
He's probably been out there for about a month. Before that, he was living with his mother, and he had some issues, and that's why he had to go to a hotel.
Because the AG's office had him served in Port Arthur.
His wife does live in Port Arthur.
Does he normally live in Port Arthur?
Yes, sir.
Why do you think he's living in Harris County?
So what he told me was he has another child's mother who lives in Houston.
Okay.
And she's apparently given him a discount on hotels. So he'd rather stay out there. Okay.
Ms. Adeline, you said that you had looked up information to determine that Mr. Paul currently has 2 other children on a child support order. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that child support order also a Medicaid order?
I didn't look at that part.
Thank you. I mean, he works at Pepsi. I mean, I would think that anybody that works at Pepsi has access to insurance.
The state would be asking, obviously, child support and medical support based on what his current income is. In retro child support, based on what mom is asking for, reasonable. I mean, she's not received any support. There is the 6 months that the child was living with him. And I know there's no reported income for very little. 2021, 2020, and 2019, but based on the fact that he's working for the last year and a half, he does have the ability to work at least a minimum wage job for at least those other years.
That's not true, Ms. Alexander. Your witness testified that she had wage information for a specific period of time Your witness also testified that she had no wage information for another specific information. Remember, the presumption of a minimum wage is just that. Once you put on testimony that there was no evidence of any income, then the presumption is overcome. That's the problem with trying to go back with retroactive child support. If the presumption's only in place as long as I don't hear any testimony that refutes it. Ms. Salazar, is there anything else that you think I need to know about this case before I make a ruling?
If this matters, a small detail. When I was gone for the 6 months, he was living with Chris. Chris was living with his dad, but I was still sending money for Chris. And whenever Jaquan needed money, I was taking care of basically both of them.
Okay. I mean, I'm gonna give you a big chunk of retroactive child support, Ms. Salazar. I just can't do it for a time period that the child was living with the dad. That wouldn't be fair.
Yes, sir, and that I totally understand. Trust me, any little help, I would be grateful.
Okay. The court's going to find the court has jurisdiction. The court's going to find that, based on the testimony of the mother, the parties need to be named as joint managed conservators, with Ms. Salazar as the parent with the right to establish the primary residence of the child. I do hear what Ms. Salazar says in regards to where Mr. Paul lives, but unfortunately he was served in Jefferson County, and I do believe that Jefferson County is his domicile. Therefore, I'm going to find that there will be a domicile restriction in this place to Jefferson County and any county that touches Jefferson County. There is a pleading on file with a request for non-disclosure. However, I have heard no evidence of any family violence or family harassment. There was some testimony about a third party, but that party is not was not served in this case. She is not named in this lawsuit, and she certainly is not a family member of Ms. Salazar, according to Ms. Salazar's own testimony. Therefore, any request for non-disclosure is denied. I will grant Mr. Paul standard possession and any and all other times mutually agreed to by the parties. I'm going to order Ms. Salazar to maintain the current health insurance that she has on the child. The court did hear some testimony in regards to Mr. Paul's current employment status being pretty stable, but there was a pretty big gap at one quarter during this year or the end of last year where that wasn't the case. I don't feel comfortable ordering him to carry the health insurance to his employer with only 6 or 7 months worth of wage information. Therefore, Ms. Salazar will maintain the health insurance that she has. I'm going to order Mr. Paul to pay child support as per Ms. Adelan's testimony. My calculation is that Mr. Paul's child support will be $445 per month, plus an additional $75 a month in cash medical. I did give him credit for only the 2 other dependents. He may have one on the way, but he's not married to that person, and there's no court order in existence for that child already. So he only got credit for the 2 dependents. I am going to grant retroactive child support according to Ms. Adelan's testimony for the last 24 months and find that retroactive child support will be $9,660. Mr. Paul will be ordered to pay that back at a rate of $100 a month. All payments will begin December the 1st of 2023. Mr. Paul will also be responsible for court costs, but I'll give him until May 31st of 2024 to pay my court costs. Ms. Alexander, did the state of Texas hear all the terms and conditions of my court order?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
We are asking that the court confirm.
All right, so men, you gotta show up for court. If you don't show up for court, they're going to take the testimony of mom, and when they take testimony of mom, they're going to have the AG to look into your finances, and they're going to look at your prior taxes, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to assess how much you should owe, and they're going to just hit you, and then you're going to get your check, and it's going to be short, and that's how it's going to be. But nevertheless, this is Antonio with Team Tiggio. Please like, comment, subscribe, as we'll be coming to you more videos in the future. Once again, hit the notification bell, and we will see you in the next video.